Hey y'all, I'm Dan, and this is Kinfolk, Stories of Community and Connection. Today, we're chatting with Katie Jones, a talented chef based in Charleston, West Virginia, who's deeply involved in his local community on Campbell's Creek. We'll dive into the story behind the Campbell's Creek Farmers Market, Katie's journey as a chef, and his passion for fostering community through the farmers market. Let's dive in. Hey Katie, welcome to Kinfolk, Stories of Community and Connection. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to talk today.
Me too. So, Katie, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, I know one of the main points of our conversation today is going to be the Campbell's Creek, the farmers market. But I did a little bit of, I was trying to snoop a little before our conversation. So, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, we can just start from there.
Right. My name's Katie Jones. I'm a chef here in Charleston, West Virginia, particularly Campbell's Creek. I've always lived up here. Right now, I work as the executive chef for the Governor's Mansion here in
Oh, wow.
Charleston. I've been at a few other local restaurants, and I was a bread maker at Charleston Bread for a while, and spent a few years doing mobile food with food trucks and stuff like that. So I've done a little bit of everything. The last few years, though, I've really focused a lot more on here in my direct community here in Campbell's Creek, and it's been really rewarding.
So, with Campbell's Creek, I've never been there, but my grandma's from there and she used to talk about it like it was the promised land. So if you want to just lay out Campbell's Creek for me and we can kind of lead into the farmers market.
So my connection with Campbell's Creek is like a lot of other people's connection with Campbell's Creek. My family moved here during the mid 1900s to mine coal. That's why they came here. And my grandfather actually started a church up here in Campbell's Creek, and
Oh
so
wow.
that's how I ended up staying around here, and my family kind of set up home around here. And it's like that for a lot of people, especially people my age who still live up here. It the the sense of community that we have in Campbell's Creek, at least in my opinion, seems pretty unique to a lot of modern places. And I think that it's something you experience a lot in West Virginia, but maybe not outside of those, rural, working class, tight knit communities.
Hmm.
And so that's really what I see whenever I think of Campbell's Creek first is, everybody kind of operating in unison, regardless of what they do in life or their belief system or anything like that. I've always been taught love thy neighbor, and I think that's something that's put forward a lot through here.
Yeah.
Um, on Campbell's Creek, we have a barbecue restaurant that I love and everybody else loves, and it's called Bowles Boys Barbecue. The owner Danny, he's from up around here, and he's had a lot of those same kind of values in the community, and it's been a real gathering place here in the community. But no, other than the barbecue restaurant, we've got a couple gas stations and a fast check. And that's kind of what we're dealing with business wise. But
Uh-huh.
honestly, up here in the Upper Canal Valley, that's a lot more than the other haulers have. So
Exactly. I was just about to say that. So with the farmers market, how did that start? Is the community very involved in that, or how long has this been going on?
so the farmers market was originally birthed because it was right after the pandemic, and like a lot of people, I really got my hands in the dirt and started gardening a lot during those times of quarantine.
Hmm.
And so I was, being a chef and always working with food, I really wanted to find a way to impact my community in a way other than just selling them food.
Of
And so
course.
I had the idea to start a community garden. And that's when I made the Facebook, the Campbell's Creek Garden Project. And I spent probably 6 months to a year just asking around everywhere that I can think of. Anytime I saw a green space with sunlight, I would get online and figure out who owned it, ask them if they'd be interested in donating land. And it became apparent that it really wasn't the time for that. It was going to take a lot more work than I had hours to put into it. And, it is a big responsibility having that on your property, especially
Hmm.
having people coming out and working in it and stuff like that. So one of the places that actually tried to get the community garden in was at the Ken Ellis Park here on Campbell's Creek, where we have our farmers markets. And even though, because the property's actually owned by a company that rents to the park, so they weren't real sure what they could do with the land. And then there was the thing with manpower and the money of getting it all put in and things like that. But they were very open to us, teaching people about gardening, having people, we did some kids games where they named plants and things like that. So they're very supportive of the idea.
Yeah.
And so me and my mom got to work on the park committee for a couple of years. She's still the secretary of the park committee. And one year, around whenever the President Joe was looking at grants, he noticed a grant for farmers markets. And he sent it to me and Mom and just asked if it would be anything that we'd be interested in. And so, we got it and we looked into it, and I was like, yeah, absolutely. And we got online and started looking at different, models of farmers markets, nonprofit, for-profit. And we decided that what we wanted to do and the way we wanted to shape it was to put as much free or very cheap produce onto the plates at Campbell's Creek as we could.
Yeah.
And so we, in our first grant, we actually applied for a voucher program. And that would, as people showed up to the farmer's market, we would give them a $5 voucher. And we were able to extend that to our vendors there at the market as well. So if we were out of produce or running low on something, or they didn't really see anything that they wanted to get, they could go and spend that $5 voucher at one of our vendors there at the farmer's market. And it's still
nice.
Stimulating that local food economy and all of that. And so the first year was very, very successful, and we had people messaging us about the second year. And that first year was through Try This West Virginia, is who we got our grant through. And I feel like it's needed to say too that Jessica Paulett with the West Virginia University Extension Service, she's been with us since I was trying to get a community garden. And she's every event that we've done, every announcement that we've made, she's been right there with us, handing out free seeds, free recipes, free educational materials. The West Virginia University Extension Service has been a pillar of the markets. So then came this year, and we weren't sure what we were going to do because the Try This grant was a lot more competitive this year, and we had some money built up from last year's markets, but like I said, it's mostly geared towards getting produce to people than making money. So we were looking for grants, and Joe, the president of the park, ended up finding a grant through the Huntington Palatine Foundation. And so the Huntington Palatine Foundation was able to help finance our market. That's our advertising. We got some branding work done by Liz Pavlovic. I'm sure you've seen our logos. Actually, this logo, she's a
it's funny that you
artist.
say that. I actually have one of her shirts on right now, is the funny thing.
Yeah, there you go. Her stuff is all over the place. And she was awesome and worked with us on the design and everything. And Palatine actually was able to help us put 50 crock pots out to the community. At our last market, they funded for us to give out 50 7-quart crock pots at the last event that we had. So we've had a lot of growth over the last 2 years, and we're really excited to get into next year. And the Palatine Foundation seems interested in a lasting relationship with us and working with us again. So that's really where we're at and what we're looking towards the future with.
So plans for next year, and I do want to ask, did the drought here recently affect you guys very much?
So the drought, physically in our home gardens and stuff, yeah, absolutely. Everybody was feeling the effects of that. The through the produce at the market, I'm sure that our farmer would probably have something different to say. But where we are a smaller market, and we work with Grit's Farm directly.
Oh,
Brad
cool.
Grit. Yeah, Brad Grit has been, just like I was saying about Jessica, without Brad Grit working with us on the produce and allowing us to get it for what we do, and He's been amazing, and will probably be our forever partner with the market until we
Mm-hmm.
get our farmers up there. It didn't seem like it affected him a lot. I know that he does have a lot of like drought infrastructure put in that a lot of the bigger farms doesn't. So I'm sure that helps him out a lot. I know that our people here on the creek, like just, having conversations about gardens and stuff, they definitely have felt it.
So looking forward for next year, what all do you have planned, or what's on the horizon for?
So for our August market this past year, we did a green bean cook-off.
Oh,
And so
nice.
we're wanting to do that again this following year in August, and really focus all of our markets around that green bean cook-off market,
Mm-hmm.
really amp it up. I would love to be able to get some funding to have some entertainment, like maybe have people there playing old time music or local bands playing music, and always wanting to get more vendors in. We don't charge a vendor fee for our markets.
Oh,
That's a
wow.
thing that's really unique, and we're able to do because of our partnerships with the park at Campbell's Creek, and we're really fortunate for that. So I always want to get word out to people. If you make anything you're welcome to come set up at our markets and vend for free. We've had everything from freeze dried candy to people selling jerky and
Oh, wow.
people selling canned goods. Even if you're, like even if you're just starting out and you're not sure how to get started, we've had a couple vendors. Chrisetta, our jam vendor, I want to shout her out. Her name's on Facebook. It's Holler Girl Creations. But whenever she started with us at her first market, she didn't know anything about homestead laws and being able to sell things out of your house that were made at the house. And so we were able to get her in contact with the Department of Agriculture, and she went to some classes and learned about canned goods and what is allowed and what isn't allowed. And she's now hitting all of the fairs and markets on the circuit, and is expanding out into like fudge and baked goods. And
Oh, awesome.
that's been really like a unexpected effect of doing the markets, is having an impact on these vendors' lives too, as opposed to
Exactly.
just the people here in Campbell's Creek.
I do want to go back to just for a second. Can you talk a little bit about? I'm not really too familiar with it. The you said it was the West Virginia University Extension.
Yes, it's the West Virginia University Extension Service. And I'm sure I'm going to butcher this mission, but from my perspective, a lot of their mission is familiarizing people with fresh produce, or the idea of growing your own food, and
Yeah.
give, giving kids an excited way to look at vegetables, and teaching people about whole meals. And that's actually something that I hadn't mentioned about the markets. We partner with the Extension Service, and a lot of times they'll actually buy the ingredients for it, but we have a vegetable of the month. And so on the first month it was zucchini, and so I used a West Virginia Extension Service zucchini bread recipe, and we
Oh,
cut it
nice.
up and gave out samples there at the market, and she had the recipe to go with it. And we kind of do that at every market, and it's a really good example of what they do. They also help with like community garden placement, which is how I got in contact with her in the first place. I know that she personally has helped with. There's a daycare garden over in Canal City that she's helped out with a lot. She's very involved with the garden at DuPont Middle School and with the classes there at DuPont Middle School. That's why she loves helping out at our markets, because she'll be there at the market and somebody will be coming through and they'll say, "Mom, that's Miss Jessica," and it's really exciting to see the kids excited to see the lady that teaches them about vegetables.
Yeah. So if you could, if say like you were setting up for a day at the farmers market, just kind of walk me through, what a normal day at the farmers market would look like.
Okay, well the farmers market, I would say it's actually 2 days. We only sell one day, but but it's always I get off work on the Friday. and I drive to the Capital Market. And normally Grits Farm will have me some vegetables put to the side on a cart with our name on it. Throw those into the car, and then I drive to the park and stick all of that produce in the concession stand. And then my wife will get off work, and while she is drawing the signs and the menu board for the market, I'm baking or cooking whatever our sample is. And then the next morning, normally starts about 8. My mom plays a huge hand in these markets. I know I haven't mentioned her, Mercedes, much. It's my wife's name is Mercedes, but they, I wouldn't be able to do any of this if it wasn't for them. I'm really lucky for who I've got in my corner. But
Mm-hmm.
after we get up to the market, so mom she'll set up the tables and put the produce in baskets, and me and Mercedes will bring the produce over to her, and then our vendors will start showing up, and Jessica will show up, and we get everything set up. And then at the reason that I know that the markets are appreciated and something that really drives me to do them over and over again is market open is always a rush. There is, every single farmer's market that we have, you can guarantee that there are going to be these 6 or 7 families that are there every single time and are so excited to get their produce and are so excited to see what kind of jam Chrisetta has or what kind of bread Londa has. And it's really exciting for that reason. And the rest of the day is more or less just handing out samples, keeping produce stocked up until the market's over about 2 or 3 o'clock or so. And if there's any produce left over, sometimes we will take it to Sojourners, or we've
Oh yeah.
taken it to uh, a more excellent way of life church. They do a lot of cooking for people, and just between me and Jessica, we'll find somebody in the community who can make use of the produce. But
Mm-hmm.
not very often we have anything left over. I think this year July was the only month, and temperatures that day were 101 degrees.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, but that's the typical market experience. For the people, it's I imagine it's fairly similar, but you walk in, you get your $5 token, and you talk to Jessica there. She tells you what food I have down there to sample, gives you a recipe for it, and then you get your produce and go through our vendors. But it's very simple, but I think that that's why we've been able to secure funding for a couple years, and why we've been able to build a relationship with our direct community is because it is so simple.
Yeah.
We advertise, but we don't advertise much outside of the scope of paper flyers here on the creek, signs beside the road, and posting in our neighborhood watch groups.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a lot of people online that follow me, and they've kept up with my work because they like my food or whatever, and so they do a lot to help get word out there. And always, every market, I'll have 2 or 3 people show up that I know from Twitter, or
Yeah.
that I know from the music scene or cooking or whatever, that come out to support. But it's it's simple, and that's why I think it works.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like it does, and it sounds like you guys have a really good thing going there. And I do want to ask, it's kind of like a two-sided question. How do you feel that this has impacted the local community there in Campbell's Creek, and how do you feel that the community has impacted you as well?
To be honest, I think that there's no amount of giving out vegetables, or giving people free crock pots or food from vendors or whatever. I don't think that it could ever match what I'm getting out of doing these markets.
Right.
I My grandpa was a lifelong volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
He started a church and ran a Christian school, and he was the kind of pastor that if there was anything to be done, he was there doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And He actually received the 35th Star Award, which is for outstanding volunteer work in West Virginia.
Oh, wow.
And I've always felt a real connection to my papa's legacy, and I never really knew where my place would be or what I would be doing, but it's all felt so natural and
Mm-hmm.
like it's where I'm supposed to be. I know that it has had an impact here in the community because, I can sit here on my porch and see, Brenda and them down there. They're there with their kids and their grandkids every time we open a market. Patty's right up there. She always comes with both of her kids, and Carolyn on the corner, and my neighbor Billy. And I, I think that the reason that I like talking about it and posting online about it and stuff like that is like it's not easy. I would never call it easy, but it's possible,
Right.
And I think that if every holler or every other holler had 4 or 5 people that said, we want to make this happen, then it's an attainable dream.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we have a lot of organizations here in West Virginia that are supportive of that.
Uh-huh. I think it's very good, that you're able, to name drop your neighbors like that, to have that, you know, community and kind of create a space for people to come together to be able to, socialize, get to meet new people and stuff like that. I think it's very helpful.
Absolutely. I'm fortunate. Me and my wife, we live in what was my grandparents' house my whole life. And I grew up, 1, 2, 3, 4 houses down the road. So, I've been here the whole time, and I don't want to glaze over the fact that, every person doesn't have the opportunities to make relationships that I do here in West Virginia, whether that be because, they're alienated for certain reasons, or
Right.
or they're fearful of approaching their neighbors for certain reasons. And that's something that I want to make sure that I recognize.
Mm-hmm.
And I do understand, that I don't love throwing the word around, but I do understand the privilege of living in a place where I've always been, and I know that people love me and
Mm-hmm.
would do things for me.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I understand that, because I lived in Clendenin for pretty much most of my, like from birth to early 20s, and, growing up there and being able to already have that established, knowing everybody, it makes it a little bit easier when you're trying to, do something like this or, meet other people and try to bring people together.
Absolutely.
Well, Kenny, is there anything else that you want to talk about or anything else that we haven't touched on that we should?
Not really. Big thing was just, just wanting to talk about the markets and process of getting it all started up, and, really to let people know that this is something that they can do. And,
Mm-hmm.
my socials are Chef KD Jones on everything. And, if we don't know each other or follow each other, it doesn't matter. If you're interested in starting something small like this in your community, reach out to me. I don't think that I could get it done, but I could help you talk to people who could help get it done. And that's mostly what I wanted to get out there, was just try to inspire people to be active in their communities and, talk about the importance of a true physical community where you lay your head every night. The
Right.
people that sleep beside of you.
And I'll definitely, everything that, we talk about, any links or links to your socials will be listed in the description and also on the website so people are able to find you and connect with you as well.
Awesome. That's great.
So before we go, I do have the rapid fire questions if you do want to do those.
No, absolutely. I'm all
All right.
about it.
All right. So question 1 is, okay, say that you have the week off or a day off. Where in West Virginia would you go and what would you do?
Man, that is tough. there's a lot of things I want to do, but I'm going to go with something that I have done and I know that I love. I would load the dog up in the car with my wife, and I would drive Route 60, stopping at Canal Falls and Cathedral Falls and Camden on the Golly. And then I would park at the foot of the hill at Camp Washington Carver, and we would go on a hike to the top of the mountain. And then there's a swimming hole right at the bottom that we've been to before. That's just no strings attached.
That's like the perfect little strip of road. And I always kind of laugh when people say that they prefer taking like the turnpike versus like Route 60 that way. And I'm like, what's the point, you know?
I take any excuse I can to drive Route 60.
Mm-hmm. All right, question number 2, and this one might be a hard one. So, if you had to describe yourself in 3 fictional characters, who would they be?
Ooh, fictional. That makes it even harder.
Gotcha.
Kirby. Definitely Kirby. Rocksteady from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And the hillbilly from the old Mountain Dew ads.
Oh, that's awesome. All right, last question is, what is your go-to pump-up song when you're needing to feel unstoppable?
Never Scared by Bone Crusher.
I don't think I've heard it, but I will give it a listen.
You're gonna turn it on and you're gonna be like, oh, this song. You'll recognize it. If you played any sports games in the 2000s, you've heard it.
Oh, okay. More than likely. I know songs, I just don't know names half the time usually. Well, that's everything that I had, Kenny. I really appreciate you coming on, and I look forward to being able to come to the farmers markets and hopefully, running into you in person sometime.
All right, awesome. Same goes for you. I'd love to meet you. We're
yeah, of course.
Like I said, we're doing the farmers markets again next year, and like I said, I do pop-ups and stuff, so it's very rare that you won't see me advertising a pop-up sometime soon.
Yeah. Well, if I can ever help you with anything, Katie, just let me know.
Absolutely. It was nice talking to you, Daniel.
You too. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
That wraps up our conversation with Katie. I hope you enjoyed hearing about the heart and passion behind the Campbell's Creek Farmers Market and Katie's dedication to his community. Be sure to check out the show notes for links to Katie's socials, and if you're ever in the area, stop by the market to experience it for yourself. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, keep exploring, keep connecting, and don't be a stranger.